Ars Technica's best video games of 2017 inches. Before we get on to the list, don't miss this year's Ars Technica charity drive sweepstakes. You can win one of nearly 100 prizes, including limited edition gaming collectibles, all while helping out a good cause. Entries are due by January 4th. Thanks in advance for your donation. In recent years, it has become a cliché for us to say just how hard it is to narrow down an entire year of video games into a list of the 20 best titles everyone should play. That said, I'd still argue that 2017 was more ridiculously packed with quality releases than pretty much any year in the past decade. While single-player adventures dominated our rankings this year, the full list encompasses everything from traditional shooters and throwback platformers to indie puzzles and narratives, plus a few VR experiences for good measure. Without further ado, our favorite games of 2017 are: Cuphead. Studio MDHR, Xbox One, Windows. Judged purely for its gameplay, Cuphead is perhaps too much of a throwback to the 8-bit era. The game's practically unbroken series of boss fights each proceed in its own basic pattern every time, and Cuphead artificially extends its length through some unforgiving difficulty. Even on easy mode, it's the kind of game likely to appeal only to a certain kind of reflex-focused gaming masochist who enjoys throwing controllers. But Cuphead still claws its way onto this year's must-play list almost exclusively because of its presentation. The screen-filling, hand-drawn bosses look like they were pulled directly from a 1930s cartoon, with expressive and lifelike animation that's literally like nothing we've ever seen in a video game before. The music and sound effects, too, capture the throwback feel of early animated film shorts in a way that seems like it shouldn't be interactive. Even if you're not in the mood for a tough-as-nails, run-and-jump-and-shoot boss rush experience, you owe it to yourself to watch some video of Cuphead being played well. Your childhood self will appreciate the artistry and technical wizardry of it, if nothing else. Static, Institute of Retention. For all the pros and cons of virtual reality, one of its strongest features is its ability to make you feel trapped in a virtual world. You can't look over at your friend sitting next to you on the couch or bring up your phone for a quick Twitter break. It's just you and the fictional world encompassing your senses in every direction. Static leans into this feeling by literally trapping you in a seat in a sterile laboratory with a blurry-faced scientist guiding you through ill-defined tasks. With your hands trapped in a puzzle box, you have to fiddle with every single button on the PS4 controller to simply figure out what is possible in each unique box, then use careful observation of your surroundings to figure out just what's expected of you. The puzzles themselves can be remarkably clever and are never so obtuse that the solution feels unreasonable once it's found. More than that, though, Static does an amazing job of creating a creepy, horror-style atmosphere without relying on jump scares, grotesque imagery, or dim lighting. In VR, being trapped with only your own brain to rely on can be the scariest thing of all. Remy. Tequila Works, PC/PS4/Xbox One, Switch. If you had high hopes that Remy would emerge as a new face in the Zelda-like genre owing to its childish hero and his animal friends, you may have been disappointed to learn it lands a little more firmly in the walking simulator camp. But as an entry in genres long trodden by Team Ico and that game company, Remy launched with a surprising number of new game design ideas. The game's greatest strength is how it leads players both visually and emotionally through a vague yet powerful story. It's easily one of the prettiest games released in 2017, in spite of the fact that its limited, simple geometry was built for the last generation of game consoles. Just a reminder, folks, you don't need more pixels, more HDR, or more tricks to build a game world worth gasping at. Remy succeeds where last year's abstract, Hubothus failed by understanding how to give weight to interactive moments. In Remy, players are given serious agency within a beautiful, confusing universe, and the game's successful tug-of-war between progress and loss is a serious game design milestone. Night in the Woods. Infinite Fall, Finch, Windows/Mac/Linux/PS4/Xbox One/iOS/Android. I don't know if you've looked at the outside world in the year 2017, but it's not pretty. Night in the Woods imparts two messages that lots of people have been trying to get across for a while: things have been ugly for much longer than 1 year, and hanging out with your friends helps ease the pain. College dropout May, who, like everyone else in the game, is a 2D talking animal, returns home to find her Rust Belt town in economic decay. It has been that way for years, of course, but distance has given her some perspective and a powerful need to reconnect with friends. Enter the gang at the center of Night in the Woods, B, Greg, Angus, and the Simpsons-like cast of oddballs orbiting around them. Together they do crimes. Together they solve mysteries. Together they try to combat the everyday sadness that affects us all at one point or another by just being in each other's company. Things get a little weirder than that, but the weird stuff isn't the real focus. Night in the Woods is a low-key adventure game in which characters, not puzzles or grand adventures, are the centerpiece. It's exactly the kind of thing to sit down and chill out with after a hard day of following each new disaster on social media. It might even remind you that you've got some friends of your own to help you get through the day. Declaring Destiny 2 one of the year's better games isn't difficult to do, at least within the vacuum of how much fun you can harvest from a few months of play. D2's planet selection, primary quests, and secondary grind after you beat the game content all expand upon the original game's promise of being fun even when you return to previously scoured lands. There's more plot, more emergent battling, more scale and depth, and more writing that actually makes a lick of sense. Further reading 3 months in, Destiny 2 has a quality of life problem. But the months since the primary game's launch have been pitifully slow and stagnant. More than 10 weeks went by without a single major quality-of-life patch to how the game works. Destiny 2's first few weeks bluster only lasted so long before players had questions. The new game was built from the ground up to allow quicker, more frequent updates to keep the game fresh, right? So how could Destiny 2 so quickly fail to put its money where its mouth was? Why were we running into a wall of boring weapons and boring rewards, even as the game's super hard raid content emerged? All of this lowered Destiny 2 quite a bit on the Ars year-end list. Its final position is a recognition of the fun laid out thus far, along with a massive eyebrow raise questioning how Bungie could screw up this honeymoon phase twice. Nioh. Nioh is the answer to the question, what if Team Ninja made a Dark Souls game? With long, uninterruptible combat animations and tons of unique enemies stripped straight out of Japanese folklore, that's kind of what the game is. It's just also extremely good at it. Players control William Adams, one of the real world's only Western samurai, around Japan's Age of Warring States. And that's about where the historical accuracy ends. You're almost immediately greeted by a version of Hattori Hanzo wielding a possessed cat that acts as a clock. From there, you fight demons, spirits, at least one necromancer, and a whole mess of bone-shattering bosses. What sets Nioh apart is more than just the setting, though. There's an incredible depth to customizing William and his arsenal. There are more skill trees and equipment crafting options than you can shake a shuriken at. And just about every one of them can drastically alter how you chop through the game's world. You'll find yourself doing everything from picking off paralytic vampires at a distance with muskets to draining giant spiders with a weighted goose-saw origami. Nioh takes the technical prowess of a fighting game and spreads it over several dozen hours of a single-player RPG. It's difficult to master, sure, but oh so satisfying for all its intricacies. Pyre. In a more just world, Pyre would climb the ranks of major streaming and gaming sites as a hot e-sport. Its primary battle mode makes players face off in a 3-on-3 mix of basketball and American Gladiators, and it's one of the most satisfying one-on-one sport video games I've played since Video Ball. Player movement, ball passing, attacks, dodges, and special powers have all been balanced to an appreciable sheen. The crazy thing about Pyre is that its two-player mode is an afterthought. Pyre, from the same devs behind the gorgeous, plot-filled Bastion and Transistor, primarily works as a single-player RPG in which you must manage off-the-field personalities as much as on-the-field powers. What begins as a wide-eyed exploration of an unfamiliar world turns into a tough decisions journey of settling many more fates than you might originally expect. This angle, combined with the games you win even if you lose twists, makes it one of the brighter RPG entries in the genre's recent history. Fidel. I played Fidel for months before its official launch, and I continue to sneak Fidel sessions in as 2017 winds to a close. I'm a sucker for brilliant, quick-hit brain games, and Fidel lets me flex my gaming muscles with familiar yet randomized puzzles every session. Your goal is to lead a dog through ever more challenging 2D dungeons, and in each one, its every step forces tough decisions. When should you step on each level's variety of helpful and harmful elements? How many painful battles, which grant all important XP, can you afford to skip? And what if you flip the entire level at the outset for the sake of a wholly different completion path? Fidel's forgiving leash system allows players to try, undo, retry, and re-undo their every step at least until triggering a death condition, at which point a game-ending ghost sets a timer and starts pulling your leash back. This is but one of the game's zillion clever twists and ideas. Playing Fidel is like sticking a fork into a rich, slightly undercooked brownie. There's something delicious and warm in every millimeter. What remains of Edith Finch? In a gaming era dominated by big, bombastic epics lasting hundreds of hours, the most memorable story I experienced this year was a small tale of a cursed family tied to a single, claustrophobic house. What Remains of Edith Finch uses sharp writing and a strong sense of place to weave a multi-generational narrative of the doomed Finch family and the untimely fates of many of its members. Each individual tale is told in a lightly interactive vignette that is more challenging as a matter of interpretation than it is challenging in terms of video game skill. There is a stunning variety in the perspectives and storytelling techniques on display here, from an ersatz-playable horror comic to a repetitive fish cannery that slowly morphs into an entire fantasy world. And the explorable house itself is practically a character, with winding hallways and rooms heavy with the accumulated detritus of a hoarder. By the time Edith Finch is over, the player is left wondering how much of the game's central curse was real and how much was just a self-fulfilling prophecy of a family that felt it couldn't escape its past. Small wonder, then, that a game about the nature of the stories we tell ourselves is one of the best interactive stories Ars played all year.